One. Good evening and welcome to Anime-Zing Radio here on the almost at the Hazy Radio Network because I'm going back in time. We are brought to you live tonight on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. I'm your host, Doug Engler. Joining me in the co-host seats, as always, our good friends Miss Angela Rose
Hello, everybody.
and Mr. Darren Starling.
Hello.
We also want to remind everybody that Anime-Zing Radio is brought to you tonight by Home Circle Media for the latest and greatest in anime gear. Everything from pens, pencil stationery, and officially licensed art books. Be sure to check out homecirclemedia.com today or look for them at an upcoming convention near you. We're also brought to you by Triple S Lawn Care. If you're in the Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina area and you're looking for quality lawn care at a great price, reach out to Darren. He will hook you up.
This is the season. Let's get you on schedule.
And we want to thank everybody for tuning in. Hello to Heather, Ross, Mario, John. Welcome to the show. It's great to see everybody. And tonight we are excited. We are celebrating our 10-year anniversary. That's right. Technically April 6, 2014, we had our first ever show on a little network known as Hazy Radio. My co-host was Brandon Aarons. Our first guest was Miss Tia Ballard, a very talented voice actress. And we are honored to have the owner and creator of the Hazy Radio Network joining us tonight, Miss Zita Ost. And we're also joined by our friend Sophia from the UK. It's great to have both of you ladies joining us.
Great to be here.
And it's so surreal to think back and be like, here we are 10 years later. And if it wasn't for Hazy Radio and the people that I met there, getting to be a co-host on Crossing the Void Radio, where we tested the waters on would there be an audience for anime, for an anime podcast or an anime internet radio show, we probably wouldn't be here in all honesty. And it's wonderful to have Zita joining us tonight. Thank you for coming on.
It's my pleasure. I'm honored.
And I know a lot of things have happened over the past 10 years. Hazy Radio, unfortunately, had to go bye-bye for various reasons. I know that there was a lot of stuff that you were in charge of, and that's very taxing when you're trying to manage a network like that with so many shows, and you had such an amazing variety of shows on there.
We did. We launched with 35 shows, and I was the sole manager of the network. So it was more than a full-time job. While I was working a full-time job, while I had 3 shows of my own that turned into 5 shows of my own. Yeah, it was a lot. But we did it. Our little network did it. Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun back then, thinking back to everything. And I'm sure you remember some of these little things, Zita, from when we used to play them on the network.
You know, when I eat all the pasta I can eat and my belly is really full and I'm there next to my sweet Germany, I like to turn on Amazing Radio on the Hazy Network. You know, when I eat all the pasta I can eat and my belly is really full and I'm there next to my sweet...
I love it.
That's funny. That's great.
Big thank you to Todd Habercorn. He gave us quite a few little promos. Also, J. Michael Tatum, Tia Ballard, Bryn April, Brina Valencia. So many amazing voice actors who have given us the bites over the years. And it's crazy to think that something that just seemed like it was going to be for fun and not something that I thought I would be doing for a long time. I mean, we'll be honest. Most, a lot of times when people start podcasts, they're lucky to last a year, even less last 2 or 5 years.
Well, I think, and I'm going to jump in here because I was there at the beginning of it. I remember having conversations with you in the very beginning, with you doubting yourself. And you can attest to this. I said, everything I have done with Hazy Radio Network was a complete happenstance. It was never supposed to be a big network. It was never supposed to be there. I had no idea what I was doing from day one, and I figured it out. And I told you that you're going to do the same thing. You're not going to know what you're doing at the beginning, but I will give you all the tools and all the push to do it. But you have to get out of your comfort zone, and you did. And that's why it was a success.
It definitely was very challenging for me to come out of my comfort zone to do this, because a lot of people don't realize. I mean, yes, I can talk quite a bit on the podcast, but outside of the show, I'm very quiet, introverted person.
Mm-hmm.
And so it took a lot of pushing from Zeta, from um, Scott Hare, who I was a co-host on Crossing the Void Radio with, and quite a few other people, just to be like, no, you should do this. You already see that there is a interest in this, and you just got to push yourself out of your comfort zone, and you could really do something good.
Right. You just have to jump in the deep end, and you did it.
And through this last 10 years, I've had multiple different co-hosts that have joined the show. Everybody has had a fit at a certain time, separated ways for various reasons, whether it be work related, personal life, things happening. But I really feel like we have a great team on here. I couldn't be happier than having Darren and Angela on here with us.
Mm-hmm. I just say kudos to all of you, because it's not, I don't think your listening audience realizes what actually goes into putting on a show, a 1 hour show or whatever. I had a 3 hour show, and it really is a full-time job. I mean, it's contacting the guest, it's finding the guest, it's scheduling them, it's doing all the background of it. It isn't that it's just a matter of calling and saying, hey, can you be on my show? And they're saying yes. You have to learn who that guest is, and you have to do the research of that guest, and you have to find the topics to talk about. And it's a lot of work. I remember when I moved out of my house and had to move the studio. And this is, I had hazy radio back then. I had 11 big 3-ring binders filled with all the guests that I had on the shows. So I always kept a library of everybody that I talked to. And taking those and moving those, it was literally moving my life for that amount of time. And so I know what Doug goes through, and I know what your co-hosts go through to put on a show. And it isn't necessarily easy. It's fun once you get on the air, but there's a lot that goes on behind it that nobody realizes on how much work you guys put in. So and huge.
And it's really like that with everything associated with what we do. Right? Last weekend, we didn't have a show because we were at Anime Boston. Angela and myself and my wife covered Anime Boston as press. Right. So it was preparing for that, securing the funds for travel, hotel, being able to have batteries charged, do press conferences with multiple guests. It was the first time in AZR history we actually had Japanese guests that we were interviewing.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to jump in. A sign that, we did something right is how interactive the chat is being right now. Multiple people in the chat wishing the show a happy birthday. Thank you all for that. And just people in the chat interacting with each other. That's huge. Ross Ross is apologizing for missing the last 2 shows, but he didn't want to miss the anniversary show. Ross, that's glad you came. You don't have to apologize for anything. Life gets in the way sometimes.
Yeah, and we're always here to try to entertain, educate, and just try to help all of our listeners escape from life for a couple hours, just listening to us talk about random nonsense, whether it's Angela and I, fighting back and forth over isekai versus shonen, or Darren falling asleep, or whatever. And Sophia's laughing because she knows she's been a guest on the show in the past. She's one of the few international guests we've actually had on the show. And we first reached out to you, Sophia, because we were me having never been outside of the U.S. I was curious what the anime world was like in where you lived, and that was why we wanted to reach out and get your point of view, because a lot of us here in the U.S. get very we put blinders on. This is what we know. This is what we think, and outside of the Japanese side of things, we don't really know what it's like in other countries.
No, yeah, it's pretty much the same in the sort of the Anglosphere. Like, for example, England, New Zealand, and all that. It's it was sort of the same. I would say that we some other English-speaking countries are more reserved, if you get what I mean. And with European countries like France, Spain, they have their sort of own sort of language. So they would have Spanish dubs, German dubs. So they would get the voice actors, and they would get some English voice actors and some Japanese voice actors, but they would mostly have like the Spanish Bulma. They would have like the German voice for Tanya from Saga Tanya the Evil and things like that. But so sometimes it is difficult for more of the Anglosphere because the voice actors have to travel and things like that far across from home. And we appreciate when we get voice actors that come over here out of their own time from far away from their home and come over here and want to interact with us and connect with us. I feel very appreciative of it because I know that a lot of people, don't like to leave the homes. It's their comfort zone. People don't like to, So we appreciate when they do come around, and we appreciate everything that they can do for us and things like that. So yeah, I think I feel blessed, having met some and things like that, and become friends with some voice actors. And I'm glad that that's happened. And like I said, they make the effort to come here. But you know what I mean? It's it can be difficult. It can be difficult sometimes in the Anglosphere, but we always deal with it. Same way we could. Like the fans are pretty much the same. Like I said, and just the conventions are just a bit more smaller. Especially in the United Kingdom and things like that. But we're basically all the same, really. I mean, every anime fan across the world is the same. We all love, we all have a shared common value of characters and things like that. And, that's why anime is so amazing, because it brings everyone together, and, we can all talk and about things that we love about it.
What do you think, Darren? What's it been like for you since being as a part of the show?
Well, it's definitely been an interesting experience getting to put my opinions out there, and consequently taking the page out of Angela's book with the phrasing, experience other people's opinions, and get to know just how much anime has impacted not only the individual but society and culture as a whole. And then also getting to meet people in the industry, and even getting to bring some of them on the show and finding out what it's like to be a part of it. I mean, it's just been an eye-opening experience. It's made me break out of my comfort zone in some ways, going to conventions, approaching people instead of just kind of chilling on the sidelines.
And I think one thing
It
that
just made me appreciate anime for what it is, even more so.
And I think one thing that we've tried to do with this show is to, as I said, not just entertain our guests or entertain the audience out there, but we also try to educate, because through these 10 years, I have learned so much about the anime industry and conventions and cosplay and artists, and having the opportunity to cover a convention as press, being an attendee, work for help out with an artist alley booth, have my own table, run a table of a voice actor. Yes, Zita, I accomplished that dream last year of flying a voice actor to a convention,
Yay.
and that was insane in and of itself because of the timing. I was fly a voice actor for a convention. The very next weekend was drive to Pennsylvania to find an apartment, and the next weekend, and like the week after that, was move to Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just want to jump in because we've got so if there's comments for you in the chat, Heather actually says you're the best, and Scott wants to know how you're doing.
I'm doing great. Yeah, having the time of my life. Let's just say. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it. Hi, Heather. Appreciate you coming on and things like that. Thank you. Yeah, they are from the Realis fan group page and things like that. They are very big support. We are very big supporters of each other and things like that. We are the definition of the anime community. So yeah.
And one of the lovely things, as Doug has brought up, is sharing knowledge regarding the things regarding anime as a whole. And John Knight tends to follow specific anniversaries of stuff and has shared a bunch in the chat, including yesterday was the 5th anniversary of Demon Slayer.
Wow.
Yesterday was also the 10th anniversary for Haikyuu, Full Metal Alchemist 15, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood 15, and then the reboot of Fruits Basket
Turned 5 2 days ago.
And then Ross is adding to that with later this month, Your Lie in April will turn 10, and this is kind of what...
That's crazy.
This is the kind of stuff that the chat loves to just kind of that sharing of all the information that not necessarily everybody would remember.
And I think that this also, like the chat community, the people who tune in and are able to chat with us, it's amazing to, I think in the end, there are times where the chat gets so active, you almost feel like you're at a convention without technically being at the convention, because you're able to connect with so many like-minded people that in other cases you may not be able to. We have people who tune in every week and we love them. We have people who tune in once in a while when they can. Sophia, I know from time to time you've joined us when you're able to stay awake for a show because of the time difference, which we really appreciate you guys coming up. And we say it all the time, but we truly appreciate and love you guys, the fans who tune in, whether you're watching us live on YouTube, whether you're watching us on Twitch or Facebook, or you're listening to us on the podcast platform after the fact. We really, really do appreciate the support that you guys give us. It's truly an amazing thing. And, I've always wanted to be kind of a platform to help promote people and give positive. Obviously in this world there's a lot of negative. You hear in anime communities and circles there's negativity and stuff, but we've always tried to focus on positive. Obviously bad things happen and we'll touch on it, but we won't dwell on it. Typically we'll try to be like, oh, this happened. Like April 2nd we said goodbye to Funimation, which a lot of people were sad about. I saw a lot of posts. Um, but looking ahead, we have so many good animes that drop every season that you like to take the time to remember the past. Without Funimation, a lot of us wouldn't be watching anime, especially in the US.
Yeah, that's
Um,
correct.
the
Yeah.
passing of Dragon Ball's creator, stuff like that is just life happens. But we've always tried to take the time to honor when something bad does happen, honor it for what positives may have come out of it, but then continue to look ahead because there's so much interesting stuff, so much good stuff on the horizon that it's absolutely insane.
Yeah, and I think that's what the anime community would want us to do. Just because Funimation's no longer here, we got to remember what it brung people together. It brung literally families, friends, future friends together. I never in my life thought that I was going to make the friends that I do because of anime. I was always quite a lonely person, and I finally found something that I can connect to people with. So, we've got to look at the good times and, welcome in the new times. That's always exciting.
And the jokes are going on in the chat. Scott says it was fun while it lasted, fun in capital letters. And Ross says to Scott, you should have been watching. For those who
Love
don't
words, very
understand,
nice.
you should be watching was a tagline for Funimation for many years. So the jokes are going on out there. And I know since the last time you joined us, Sophia, you have actually made a trip out to the US last year.
Yeah, I did. I went to Fan Dallas Expo and I cosplayed as what do you call it, Captain Carter from the Marvel What If series. That was pretty fun.
Oh,
But
nice.
because I've never cosplayed like big like that before. I had the shield and everything. And people were calling, obviously saying Captain Carter, Captain Carter. I'm like, I'm not used to that. I was like, my name's Sophia. Like, you know what I mean? And like, even my fiance was going like, Sophia, the people are calling you for taking pictures, and I was just too. I was in my own little world. Like, I didn't expect it. Like, you know what I mean? So it was nice. Yeah, no. I met a lot of voice actors, which I'm really happy about. Um, American conventions are something else. And I love it. Obviously you have more merch, which I'm grateful for, and things like that. But it's like it's good. You know what I mean? Like, it's good to have different experiences of different cons, because I did go to in 2019. I did go to what's it? It's called GalaxyCon Raleigh in North Carolina. I
That's in
went there.
Darren's backyard.
Yeah, I went there. That was in 2019, and I was just like, is it okay? Because like we were trying to get all of our Realist friends together, because we want to have some sort of a reunion. We want to have a big reunion soon, I hope. So I was trying to get everyone together. Obviously, we can get everyone together because I know that America's a pretty good big country. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so I understood that perspective. But we got as many people as we could to like come and see, all gather up, and we enjoyed it while it lasted. And I enjoyed the McDonald's McGriddles while it lasted as well, to be honest. My favorite. But yeah, no, it's amazing, and I love the experiences and the new friends that I've made, and yeah, it's pretty good experience, and I will go to America again, and hopefully in the northern states. That's a goal of mine, potentially next year or the year after. Just got to save up some money for flights. But yeah, definitely coming. I'm definitely coming to America again. There's definitely
If
such
you're,
an amazing place. Yeah.
if you're heading into the northern states, New England area, Angela's up there, and I'm not very far. Darren's down in North Carolina. GalaxyCon is in his backyard. How far is that from you, Darren? Like 20 minutes?
It's the same one that we went.
Oh, okay.
Remember, GalaxyCon was what was the franchise that SuperCon became.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Scott Boudreau in the chat says, might I recommend New York Comic Con or Anime NYC? those are cons that, even though they're closer to me than Anime Boston, personally, I probably wouldn't go to. Not anything against the conventions themselves, because I'm sure they're wonderful conventions. Me personally, I'm not the biggest fan of the big cities. I prefer Boston because of living there for many years, so I feel comfortable there. New York City, I cannot say that I feel comfortable in, especially being from the Boston area and knowing the hated sports history between the two teams.
I see. I'm the opposite, and for me personally, it's along the lines of I've done trips to New York City, and if I could actually afford either of the conventions, I potentially would, but with all of the expenses, it's just a little much. Plus, the last couple of times, Anime New York City has been on weekends when I just couldn't get down there.
I would love to go to New York or Boston. I'll be grateful to go to either one of them in my lifetime. So I'll be grateful no matter which one I go to be honest.
Sophia, how far are you from London?
So I'm in like the Cheshire, so a county called Cheshire. So it involves Liverpool, Manchester. So I am, let's say, on a train, 2 hours away. Yeah.
Because I actually had I had the luxury of being able to spend a week in London in the fall of 2022.
Yeah, how was it?
I loved it.
Yeah.
And I loved it, and we're planning on going back at some point.
Oh well, there you go. See, it's it is a good place, and I also recommend other places in England as well. And if you go to the other different countries in the UK, which is Scotland, Wales, and things like that, they're beautiful places. It's just whether you can afford the flights.
Yep. And one of the things we saw when we were waiting for a train to get somewhere, and we saw a bunch of cosplayers, and we were just like, and we apparently happened to time it, and we looked it up, and there was a convention going on at that point that we didn't know about.
Yeah, that would probably be the MCMs and things like that, or like what do you call it? Anime owned, sort of separate sort of conventions and things like that. Yeah, the MCMs is a pretty big franchise. Like, say for example, you guys have GalaxyCon, we have the MCMs here and things like that. But yeah, that's probably what that was.
And questions coming from the chat for Zeta and for Sophia, asking, what's your favorite dubbed anime and who got you into anime?
Who's my favorite anime? So I'm gonna start off when I was a little kid, right? I know, what was it, Yu-Gi-Oh? I'm not sure when the dub come out. It was around the late 90s, I suppose, and I was born in 98. So my brother, he got all those original, the Yu-Gi-Oh tins and full of cards and things like that. And he watched it, like, I was a little kid, so I didn't know what was going on. And he would have it on the TV in the background. He would have like play mats and things like that. And he would try and coax me to play. And obviously, I wasn't interested as a little kid at the time. Now, fast forward it to like, what was it, 2016. Like I said, my origin stories for everything is just like, yeah, I literally just got bored one day. And I was just like, and I think I was just like, I was on Netflix. Was it on Netflix? I think I was on Netflix. And I was just like, I recognize that character. I'm gonna watch this, and I binge watched the entire season, and I just found it amazing. And then I started getting into the card game, and then I started calling my brother and saying, "Look, hey, I watched this and things like that." And then I think that's one of my favorite animes. It's one of my first animes that I sort of watched. I technically grew up with it, but I didn't. And then one of my two favorite dubbed animes, I would say, is, well, I've got three, so I'd say Black Butler, Black Clover, and Fairy Tail. I think those are my three favorites. Yeah. If I'm missing anything, let me know. But yeah.
And it looks like Zeta has stepped away for a moment, so we will ask her when she comes back. I'm not, if I remember correctly, when we started the show, she didn't really know anything about the anime genre or the world of anime. It was still very new 10 years ago to the US. It was gaining steam, but like 10 years ago, I don't think any of us would have dreamed that anime would be where it's at today with how huge it became over the last 10 years. Thanks to studios like Funimation, Sentai Filmworks putting on the dubs and getting stuff out in a timely manner. I know when COVID hit and the world stopped for a couple of years, they figured out how to be able to record the dubs and the subs from home locations and home studios, and they were able to put stuff out. And because people were stuck at home, they explored new forms of media for entertainment, which opened up a lot of people to not just anime, but the YouTube streamers who do gaming, VTubers, podcasts blew up everywhere. People were just trying to find stuff, A, for entertainment, and B, to keep themselves from going insane being in lockdown in multiple countries. And that as much as that sucked when it happened, it really, I feel like, helped explode the interest in the anime world. And a lot of people who thought anime is just for kids kind of got a wake-up call that no, it's not.
Depends what anime you watch.
Exactly.
I would not recommend like gushing over magical girls to anybody under the age of like 17.
A related question in the chat, Spike Bebop says, any new video games you've played? So I'm going to assume that's directed at everybody.
Sorry. No, I'm a weirdo. I play app games.
I don't play games.
I do video games because I tend to play RPG style video games. I do one at a time. And subsequently, I'm still working my way through the most recent Assassin's Creed game.
I typically will play a couple of different games on the Switch. Most recently, it was jumping between Animal Crossing and Minecraft. So nothing too new, just like mindless entertainment.
And then we've got people in the chat sharing some of their favorite animes.
I see Heather Nelson Guyton says Dragon Ball. Scott Boudreau said One Piece, Fairy Tail, and I don't know if I can pronounce that. Nichiju?
Nishiju.
I know that one. Yeah. I like this anime. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of it. I don't think it's. I think it's done, but I watched this in sub. It's such a cute little anime. It's called How to Keep a Mummy. That one's
My
good.
wife loved that one. She actually did some artwork for that she sold at Anime Boston one year.
Yeah, I think that was that's one of the cutest anime I've seen in quite a long time, to be honest. Yeah.
And Zeta, welcome back.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
That's okay. We had questions that came in from the chat asking who got you into anime and what is your favorite dubbed anime?
Oh, okay. Actually, Doug got me into it. I'm not I don't want to say I'm not a fan because I'm aware of anime, but I don't follow it as closely as you guys do. If Doug knows how my mind works, I look at things from a production point of view, so the artistry behind it. So I always kind of zero in on what the images are and the characters and how they relate in the storylines. That's what I focus on. So I enjoy it, but I'm not completely up to date on them. I know my niece is a huge anime fan. She does all the cosplay. She's in Florida, so she goes all the cosplay conventions and everything down there. So it's kind of an odd question for me because I don't follow it, but I appreciate everything that goes around it. The artwork that's involved in it, the creativity that goes around it, the voiceovers that go around it, how it's produced and how it's played. So, and to watch it expand the way it has, like you guys were talking about the gaming piece of it, to watch how that has taken off in the last couple of years, even more so than it was before, I think it's phenomenal. And the way you guys have been talking on how the community has grown, I think the popularity of anime has grown. Now, I'm old. I'm probably older than everybody in this room. So I watch the generational side of it too, and how it's bringing different generations together, which I think is incredible. Because people my age, okay, I'm 65. So people my age would not understand what anime is about. They would they wouldn't understand the storylines behind it. But if you really watch it and pay attention to it, they're really talking about topics that are going on now. And I don't think adults look at it that way. That's how I see it. So that's my introduction to anime. It's in a roundabout answer.
It's very interesting to hear that because you and I, we've kept in touch here and there throughout the years after us leaving Hazy Radio.
Absolutely.
But we don't talk on a regular basis, and I feel bad because we all wish we could keep in contact really well with everybody that we've become friends with over the years. But to hear how much like my interest in anime kind of gave you a little bit of knowledge, and you wanted to understand a little bit more. And I know from the guests we've had on talking about the business side of it, or what it's like for the voice actors and
Right.
from the cosplayers, and you were listening to the shows and you were kind of taking that information in and learning about it, and trying to get an educated opinion about something you
Mm-hmm.
didn't really understand at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's and again I and I'm kind of backtracking a little bit, because I go back to how much work goes into putting on one episode. You know, I think the layperson, if they don't understand production side, now I grew up in the entertainment industry, kind of, sort of, and I grew up in advertising and artwork. And so I know what it takes to put the storyboards together, to create the story, to make sure that the image that you're putting up on the screen relates to the story itself and also has to match the people doing the voiceover. And to me, watching all of that and knowing how it all is put together, one episode could take a year to produce. And I don't think people realize what it takes to put something like that on. It isn't, I know a lot of it now is digital pieces, but it still has to be done from the production side of it. And to me, that's what's amazing. I mean, it's phenomenal what they do. So that's what impresses me with anime.
And as you said, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes, and the voice actors get a ton of credit for bringing these
Yes.
characters to life. But every time we've had voice actors on, and I know Angela and Darren feel the same way, we've brought up the production team, the directors, the script writers, the translators, and everything. It's a team that puts this stuff together, and they
Right.
deserve all the credit as well.
And if you think about it, again, it's the production side, but if you think it takes one person to come up with that idea. But in order for that one person to produce and direct the end result, he has to have an entire team around him or her. And that's where it goes. I mean, it's the directors get a lot of credit because they're the machinery. They're the they're the nuts and they're the guy, the conductor, I guess you could say, where everybody else is the nuts and bolts of it. If they didn't work together as a team to produce and make the image of what the director and the writer started, it'll never translate. And to make all of that work, it takes every single piece of what they're doing jiving. And that's when I get excited when I see productions like this that go off without a hitch, and knowing how long it takes and the heart and soul and the blood and the sweat that goes into every single one of those productions. So to me, that's incredible. So kudos to everybody.
And that's one thing that has, made me proud of being a part of this show. And, the boost that everybody gave me to start it. And, we've been able to learn so much that it's helped me go from just your average fan of, I enjoy these shows, to getting a better understanding of the industry as a whole, which then led to getting a better understanding of conventions, how they work,
Right.
talking with promoters, seeing Artist Alley and vendor rooms, the setup and the teardown that these people do hours before a single attendee can walk through there.
Absolutely. And you have to think too that even producing a show, a convention, I call them trade shows because that's what I grew up with. They start planning those a year in advance. It's not something that they just say, okay, well, in 6 months, we're going to go ahead and do a convention here. No, that doesn't happen that way. And so again, it's the gears that put it all together. If it weren't for your audience, and if it weren't for the audience of the anime people, there would be no conventions. So if these people aren't familiar with what's going on in anime, they wouldn't show up. So you guys doing your show the way you do it pushes all of that forward. And to me, just over the last 10 years, just think about how the conventions have grown.
Oh,
and
yeah.
how much popular they have gotten. And they're getting press, and they're getting broad stream press. So look at what you have done for the community of anime just by doing your show. So you're part of those gears.
And somebody who would know the convention side of things and the growth is our next guest who just joined us, Mr. Gavin Goska.
I know that name.
How's it going? Happy anniversary. Congratulations. And hey, Zeta, how you been? I haven't talked to you in forever.
Gavin! I love that man. He knows that, though.
Well,
Good
sure.
job. How are you?
Fun background. Gavin and I first met when I was co-hosting a show called Crossing the Void Radio on the Hazy Network. And Gavin and his music partner, Ed, have a group called Midnight Syndicate that we've talked about on the show before. And they were guests on Crossing the Void. And during a commercial break, somehow Gavin and I started talking about anime.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the idea of doing Anime-Zing Radio came up, Gavin mentioned that he has his own store, Home Circle Media, that he does online and at conventions, and thought that it was neat. We were going to start this little show way back 10 years ago, and agreed to come on to help sponsor, our show. Generously over the years donated many prizes for giveaways and stuff like that, and it's just been an absolutely amazing person to work with. So thank you, Gavin, for all the support over the years, and it's been such an honor to have you on board as part of the team.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for all the support for Home Circle as well, too. I know you're always plugging us. It's all good.
And I felt, unfortunately, Scott Hare was not going to be around tonight. I did reach out to him because knowing that this is a huge, milestone for any type of show, whether it's a TV show, podcast, whatnot. 10 years is huge. I thought it would be great to have a lot of the original people from when the show started. Unfortunately, he wasn't available for tonight. He did join us last year for our 9-year anniversary show, which was wonderful.
Yeah, that's a bummer. That would have been like the whole group here back together again.
God, I feel like I should be sitting in front of my computer in my studio,
Yeah,
pushing buttons.
right.
And we're thinking back over, we were talking, Gavin, about the last 10 years, how the industry has changed, how our show has changed over the time. Looking back, what was your first thoughts, Gavin, when we were like, oh, we're going to do this anime podcast?
I guess I knew you well enough at that point, and I knew you'd make it run. I didn't know. I guess it just depends on how far you want to take it, and how long you wanted to be doing it and stuff. But I don't think I ever had a question about you being able to get it off the ground and like run it yourself and stuff.
I'm not going to lie. I put a lot of pressure on myself, personally, just because I'm the type of person that if I'm going to do something, I want to do it well. I want to put a lot of time and effort, and I want to do something I'm proud of. And I felt like I put the bar really, really high, having like Tia Ballard, who at the time was a huge name in the industry. She was up there with Monica Rial, Todd Habercorn, Christopher Sabat, as the main voices of the anime industry. And being lucky enough to have her as our first guest, I'm like, I've set the bar really high. But at the same time, I don't want to just focus on the voice acting side of things, because there's so many other sides of the anime and pop culture genre that we need to focus on.
Yeah, right on.
And it's crazy to think that 10 years later, we've had over 75 voice actors from anime, video games, and movies. We've had authors and musicians and gamers and conventions. We've had the honor of covering some very large-scale Northeast conventions, including Anime Boston as press, Kineticon as press, KatsuCon as press at another anime con, Anime-Zing, Bakuretsu-Con we've covered, Northeast Comic-Con we've covered. There was a lot of small ones that have come and gone that were fortunate enough to have press at. Colossal Con East we had press at last year. Having tables at many conventions like Vermont Sci-Fi and Fantasy Expo up in Vermont, PucciCon in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. We sponsored them by donating giveaways and prizes. It's so many different avenues that we've been able to explore over the last 10 years. And, I couldn't have done it without people like Zeta and Gavin and Sophia, who have supported us. Of course, having Darren, who was there from the beginning, having Angela, who was a cosplay guest early on and then come on as a co-host a couple years ago. Without having, and all of our fans out there, all you guys in the chat room, without having your support, we never would have gotten to where we're at.
Oh, it's all good.
And it's like, I know a lot of people, I look back and it's like, I think to myself that, I did a lot of amazing work, and I realized, it just wasn't, me doing this. I've always tried to find people who could help me progress the show forward. And,
but you steer the ship. That's the whole point.
You're the
captain. And don't forget that.
And
you the captain's hat.
Yeah.
Sometimes, Doug, it really is just a matter of being in the right place at the right time.
Right.
And I mean, you saw that with what happened at, I think it was PucciCon, when we had a random conversation with one of the vendors, and the end result was me sitting down, going back to the table, sitting down, pulling out my laptop, and setting up some of the episodes that we had and putting them up in audio format just to see what would happen.
And hello to Sharka. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. great to see in the chat. Sharka has been around for many years as well. And all these faces that come in, and Zeta, thinking back to the Hazy Radio days, we still see like Karma. Remember Karma Cookie who would come in?
Oh yeah.
They still come into the chat from time to time when they're able to. And it's like, I remember these people. I don't want the people who come into the chat room that we see even once. I remember you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And it means a lot to see you guys. And if you enjoy it, I love seeing you all come back. And every guest that we've had, I listened to like the Trash Taste podcast and them talking about, oh, we're getting ready to start, we're about to hit 200 episodes. And I'm like, going 10 years, we've got to be close to 500 episodes.
Easy.
And that is insane to me.
And Nico and Koishi, Game Playing Idiots, in the chat just said, someone introduced me to you all in 2022, and I've been along since then. And that's...
And I love that, and we've had a lot of friends who have come in and out throughout the years. Mario was our first ever international guest. Sophia was our second international guest that we had on the show, both in the UK. And the fact that we've been able to branch out to people outside of the US, that means a lot to me, because I know that there's fans all over the world. And if I'm able to, I want to be able to showcase the fandoms in other countries, because I feel it is important for anime as a whole, as a community as a whole, to be able to get together to understand what's popular here in Pennsylvania may not be the same popular shows in the UK, may not be the same popular shows in France, something else might be huge in Germany or Netherlands or Australia or wherever.
And Doug, I've seen that firsthand at this point. Just my husband and I, for those who don't know, my husband and I love to travel, and that's where most of our disposable income goes. We've had the luxury of being able to leave the country a lot in the past leave the United States a lot in the past few years, and it's really interesting to see what's some of the shows that are popular here are popular elsewhere, and some of it's very different.
And looking at it from a convention standpoint, I know, Gavin, you and I have talked about a little bit about how conventions have changed over these past 10 years. And you coming from a vendor standpoint, you've seen a big swing, both positive and negative, in some of the conventions.
Yeah, I've seen. I did a count of this actually a little while ago. How many cons that I've done that don't exist anymore, and I think it was like 30 or 31, which is crazy because I pretty much I stay on the East Coast, Midwest. I haven't done anything far west or anything, so my range isn't massive, and I don't do a lot down south or anything. I've been to MomoCon and stuff, but I haven't done them a lot. So just knowing the ones that I've done, to see that kind of a turn, in the years that I've been doing this, it was kind of like, wow, that's kind of crazy. But like you said, good things, definitely some good things. It's nice to see, the popularity and stuff, and more people kind of getting exposed to anime. And then some not so great things. It was a tough year for a lot of cons, I guess, last year. There's some big drama going on with a couple of them that I'm not going to, I guess I'll stay away from naming things, but we'll see how that ends up this year. How they can recover from that, and stuff. Sometimes going through some things.
I'm not going to name names or get into specifics, but been following a lot of the convention things, and there are some conventions that never really bounced back from COVID.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. There's a couple that I did, in fact, that it took them a couple years longer than some of the other ones to even run again,
And that, for some events, that's the whether how they bounced back from COVID really was kind of the source of contention.
Yeah, I think I just saw a post from NashiCon, which is one that I did in South Carolina, that they've been out for a number of years now, and I think it was maybe the former con chair, somebody on staff was talking about how they would love to come back, but it's just the finances aren't there, and it goes back to COVID, it just kind of did them in.
It's yeah, no, I remember hearing just different people from different events talk about that. COVID really did affect the convention, for lack of a better word, industry as a whole.
Yeah. Yep.
And I know I've had the honor of meeting Gavin at 2 different conventions over the 10 years that we've been doing the show. One was a college-run convention in Connecticut.
Yes, QueenieCon, which is still, I remember that was a really well-run show, and I love the venue there.
And I remember that we met you, and that was the first time we met Rusty Gilligan, and I'm drawing a blank on the other artist's name. Unfortunately, he had passed away, but we became friends with them at that convention as well. And the other convention that we got to meet at that also doesn't exist anymore was Plattsburgh Comic-Con.
Oh, did that go away?
Yeah.
No kidding. No kidding.
In fact, the building doesn't even exist anymore. They condemned it.
Oh, wow. Oh, no. Fascinating. So he's still running. Sam is still running Saratoga and everything, right?
Yeah, he's still doing Saratoga Comic-Con. I think he wants to do one he was trying to do one in Vermont.
Okay, that's cool.
To lighten things up from kind of the serious road we went down, Ross in the chat, just out of anime curiosity, since this is the year of the dragon, who is everyone's favorite anime dragon?
Ooh.
That's tough.
Yeah.
Shenron. Come on, Shenron.
Well, me being a huge fan of a lot of the dragon ladies in anime.
I think I'm just going to go with the most recent one and say Soul. From Fluffy Paradise.
I'm trying to think if I know any dragon characters. I don't know if I've seen any shows that really have them.
And multiple people in the chat say Shenron.
Thanks.
And
I would say mine, even though you don't get to see her a lot in anime, well, actually, I forgot. It doesn't have a gender, but it's Ophis and Great Red.
I would probably say Lady Scotty from Monster Girl or Monster Doctor.
And then the next question in the chat, John Knight says to our guests, do any of you collect anime Blu-rays?
Yeah.
Used to.
Hmm.
Yes, definitely. I think that's all I've been buying. Actually, I kind of got out of buying DVDs unless it's something that I just can't get on Blu-ray.
And Nico and Kiyoshi Game Playing Idiot say Toru from Dragon Maid. I'd say if I had to pick a dragon from Dragon Maid, I would have to go with Lulu. Granted, I'm biased, but
I was gonna say you're biased for that one.
I probably gave the most easiest of easiest answers. Oh man.
I do want to throw a shout out to Ange and thank her again for at Anime Boston. She was able to get me a couple of free Rin figures, which this one here I've been seeing on pre-order everywhere. So I'm not sure how they got this ahead of time.
But they got it from Japan.
Okay.
That is all I know. I didn't ask questions. About as far as the conversation went was the shop owner being a friend of mine saying, I have free run figures. Me going, I'll set me aside a full set. Let me know how much I owe you because I'm going to grab them for somebody else.
Oh, that's sweet.
And knowing that I haven't shut up about it since the
Exactly.
series started.
And that's how that worked. And at grabbed them at Anime Boston. And the look on your face was worth it.
Nice.
Yeah, I was definitely in shock because I didn't know that they were out. Everywhere I had seen had said pre-order. And our next guest should be joining us shortly. I just sent her the link. A lot of our fans out there know Julia Coelho as one who is very fun to talk to. Anything could be said, so viewer discretion is advised. The show may turn 18 plus at this point, but
oh, I like that already.
Let's
bring her on.
Crafting cheese. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Oh yeah.
Hello.
Hello. Hi. Listening to you, Sophia.
Hello. You doing okay?
I guess as okay as I can.
Good.
Julia has been a guest on the show many times throughout the past 10 years, and it's we've known you for a while, Julia. So thank you so much for coming on and hanging out with us as we celebrate our 10-year anniversary.
Congratulations, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. It's always fun to have you on the show. Joining us on the show is two people who were a part of the start of Anime-Zing Radio. Zita Oss, the owner of Hazy Radio, where we got our start, and
Hi.
Gavin Doska from Home Circle Media, who has been our proud sponsor for 10 years.
Hey.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, hey.
And Sophia was our second ever international guest on the show, all the way from the UK. So we've always had fun having her on. And of course, Angela and Darren.
What's up?
Hey. Hi.
Hello.
And you've had a crazy stretch. I saw that you were at PAX East 3 weeks ago.
Yes.
And you were at a convention this past week or this weekend. I don't think we saw you at. I don't think you were at Anime Boston, sadly.
No, I had to skip, sadly. Health related, thyroid stuff. Getting old. Not that that's a part of active aging, but I felt fatigue and I got it checked out. And there's like all kinds of bumpy lumpies and cool stuff. So I sound like a frog now. Yay! Wait, not yay.
Well, glad to see you're doing better. Better being relative, and sorry I missed you.
It's okay. I'm sorry I missed you. I had to sit down a lot.
Your health and well-being comes first.
Yes. Thank you.
And we're getting comments in the chat. None your business says 2 more, and it's the Brady Bunch panel.
Oh my God.
It's the most tabs we've ever had. Most people we've had on the show.
I think the only one that comes close was when we had the Idol group.
Yeah. I think you're right. And the only reason that it wasn't a full 9-10 people on that is a few of them were 2 per screen.
And Heather says, "Can I be Jane?"
And I have a question for Zita and Gavin. Since you were there from the start, what is one of your favorite moments that you've seen with Anime-Zing Radio?
Oh, man.
I was going to say, gosh.
It's pushing the limits of my memory here.
I told you I'm old. I didn't yesterday. No.
It's like I always tell people I can't remember what I ate for breakfast this morning, let alone what happened 2 weeks ago.
You had breakfast? I'm still working on what I had for dinner. I think what I remember, and again, it's the mom talking. I remember you going on air the first time and how worried you were, and that you couldn't quite, because I made you go on. I think I ran your first 1 or 2 shows, and then I remember you going live on your first show, and you forgot all the buttons. So it was walking you through how to get on air, and I just sat back and in case you needed me. And once you were on air, you didn't need me. And so that's what I remember starting off. And then you starting to create your, what we call a playlist or a guest list, and just coaxing you through it, and just kept saying, you've got this. You don't need me. You've got this. And just watching you take off. That's what I remember.
I'm so bummed I missed the Share Me episode. If I could go back in time, I wish I could have tuned in for that.
Yeah, I remember being a bottle of nerves, and I've been told that I have 2 modes. I have show mode, and then I have, my normal Doug mode, which, when I'm on the air, I kind of have like a radio voice.
Yep, everybody does.
And it's something I never realized that I had until it was brought up to me, and that was probably about 5 years ago that it was brought up. It was, I want to say it was like an Anime Boston pre-COVID, that somebody was like, "Oh wow, you were just talking like you were on this podcast," and it was like, I sound different, and they're like, "Yeah, you have like 2 different like ways to go about things." And I think when you start doing podcasting on a regular basis, and your mind gets into, the show must go on, and you're able to push emotions to the side, you're able to push nerves to the side, because even now I still get nervous before shows. It doesn't happen often, but we get big guests on or something like that. The excitement, the nervousness is there.
Just to give you a comparison, now these guys will laugh. Gavin will laugh. I know he will, because he'll get this. My first time ever on air, and that would have been back in 2007. I was sitting in a chat room, and I don't remember. I remember where it was, but I won't bring it up because they're no longer around. And I was talking to some friends, and it was Scotty Rourke, and it was the old Z Talk Radio. Actually, it was Dark Plains back then. And so we were talking to everybody in the chat room, and he said, "My co-host bailed on me tonight. I need a co-host." No, he didn't even say that. He said, "I'm not going to have a co-host. I need a co-host." And he says, "Let me call you really quick." And the next thing I knew, I was on air. That was my first introduction of being on air.
Oh, wow.
I had no prep. I had nothing. And when you talk about behind the radio voice and then in public, I cannot speak in public. I don't know how, unless I have a microphone. If I have a microphone, I can talk nonstop, because you learn to do that when you do radio. And if you don't have that naturally, you have to work on it. And Doug had to work on it a little bit, but he did it. Gavin understands that, being a musician. The first time you start out, you don't really know what you're doing, and then you just slide into it, and then it becomes a habit.
Yeah.
But yet you still have the 2 personas.
It's weird, like, for the syndicate shows, even when we first started doing that in 2014, I was like not nervous. I guess maybe a tad, because it was a big theater and stuff.
Right.
And I still don't get nervous for those, but I do still for the anime gigs. Not that I do it a lot anymore, but when I went back to the couple of cons in 2022 to play, I was like, oh man, like I got to get this right. And like, I think maybe the difference is that you're kind of flying solo, and if you miss a note or you mess something up, or like if you say something kind of weird in between songs, it's just you, there's
Right.
nothing else to fall back on.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And what's incredible about that too, Gavin, and because Gavin and I both see things the same way. We see things production wise. So
Mhm.
we see how things are made. So even though Gavin may have hit the wrong note or missed a cue, or I said something wrong, or I hit the wrong button, you're the only one that notices. Nobody out there notices it.
Yeah.
But that will trigger you for the rest of the performance.
Yeah, it does. It's funny how your perspective affects that, but you're absolutely right. You can mess something up that only you know about,
Right.
and you're like freaking out in your mind, and nobody's like any wiser. They're just like, oh, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
And
they
I
just
think
it's all part of it.
I think you can also relate that to the world of art. We have my wife being an artist. If she makes a mistake on a piece, she focuses on that.
Yeah.
Where I may never know if there was a mistake made on that. And we've talked to many artists who do that. Cosplayers the same thing. They make a mistake on their outfit, they worry about that. That's where their focus is on. To me or Angela or Sophia or anybody else, the outfit looks amazing, but they have one stitch out of place or something ripped just before, and they're able to sew it back up real quick before going into a competition, or before halfway through the con they had to go to a cosplay repair station or something of that nature.
Right.
And
I do graphic design, and it's the same thing. I remember I had to do a album cover for somebody, and I sent it to him, and he loved it, and everything was great. And I did a second look at it, and I went, no, I've got to fix something on this. And it was like one line that was off by like a fraction. But he said, no, it's fine. And I would not let him use the piece that I sent him. I had to redo the whole thing just to get that one little piece to work. But yeah, you notice it, but nobody else notices it. Same thing in anime. So if you think about the artists and the creators of anime, of anything, when they see one little piece off, then it's a whole domino effect. But nobody would notice it except them. So, Doug, you have nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
The long and short of it.
I will say that, since switching to like StreamYard, coming to YouTube, we've had a lot less technical issues that we used to have when we were audio only. Using the StreamYard platform has been really good. I know there's a lot of other really good platforms out there as well that, Angela and myself have looked into. For now, I think we want to stay with StreamYard as our platform because we're able to, broadcast in one location and share it to multiple. We're able to bring on multiple guests like this. And I'm curious because I know, Sophia, you're a fairly new fan of the show. I was curious, what one of your favorite highlights has been from what you've seen of us.
I just like people interacting with each other. And I think my first introduction. I think one of my first introductions was when you brought Monica Real on, and obviously we support her and things like that. And I think it's just the way that you guys interacted with these people. There's no, panic, or there's no. What do you mean? Like it flows. You know what I mean? There's no like script. You know what I mean? Like say for example, like most people would have. You know what I mean? Like you just let it roll, and if you go in a certain direction, obviously whilst keeping it on the topics that you want, then you're completely fine. And this sort of anime sort of podcast just relaxes you. Like, you know what I mean? It's not tense. It's so relaxing. That's what I like about this show. Yeah, that's what I like about it. Everyone's chill. I love it's super chill. I love that. That's a really good fact. I think that everybody likes.
And that's one thing that I wanted to do from the start. And I know Gavin and Zeta know this as well. Is I've always enjoyed having just kind of a improv, go with the flow. Let's just basically friends having a conversation that people can listen in on through the chat. You can get involved with. You can ask the questions, and we incorporate the chat in. And I've always wanted to incorporate the community.
Yeah, and the fact that we're voice actors, I think I appreciate my dad telling me, this from a young age and saying, that's not actually a person who's voicing that certain character. If you get what I mean, because my dad used to work in London, he used to see celebrities come there all the time. My dad never used to go up and say, "Hey, can I have an autograph?" You'd literally see Samuel L. Jackson sitting in a Pret and Manger place.
Never.
And I'm glad that he introduced me to that because they're people too, like they're just normal like you and me, like it's the same with everyone else. They just want to, I mean, they have families, they have friends, like that's with podcasts like this, like it's not like you think, like you just treat them like normal people, and that's what I like.
That was an important thing to me personally. Was and when I had the idea for this, I wanted it to be a show for anime fans by anime fans. I wanted to keep it real, but when I had the guests on, I respect them for the work that they do. I respect everybody who's volunteered their time to come on the show and allow us to get to know them better as people. I've seen a lot of posts on social media where voice actors get bombarded at conventions or wherever by people being like, "Can you do this voice? Can you do this voice?" Thinking of them only as a character they voiced. And I kind of want to highlight Monica Rial as a voice actor, not a character she's voiced, or any of the guests that we've had on. Having Julia on the show, I want to highlight her as a cosplayer and the stuff that she's done.
Now we've expanded.
Yeah.
Julia Coelho is now a cult. Just kidding. Yeah, I started doing like fursuit making before cosplay. I did a lot of artwork. I'm also a panelist and vendor at conventions.
She wears many a hat, and I think I first met you, Julia. I want to say it was like 8 years ago.
We could lie, we could say it was 300 years ago. Keep them guessing.
We could. Julia's secret identity is Freerin. She's over 1,000.
And my power level is over 9,000.
Nice.
And over the years, obviously, as I mentioned before, we went through a lot of co-hosts, and I did a lot of shows solo, and Zeta can vouch for this, Gavin can vouch for this. When you're trying to fill like a 2-hour show on your own, having a guest is important because you're able to bounce stuff off of somebody else. B, trying to have topics to talk about if you don't have a guest for 2 hours is also challenging.
Well, I think the key behind that, Doug, and I think you do it very well, is you treat everybody like they're coming into your own home. And I think treating, and you guys can attest to this because you've been on my shows, I never treated anybody other than as a human being. I don't get starstruck because I never put my guests on a pedestal, and you don't do that either. You treat them with the respect that they deserve, but you treat them as a human being. And I think, yes, I think people who are listening to a show want to hear the quote unquote character, but I think that becomes stale at a certain point. I think it's more interesting to the listeners to hear the person behind it, to understand the person that is that character and what influences they had to create that character and how the two meld together. And you do that very well by melding the two together. So again, kudos to you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can't imagine what it's like to try and basically hold a conversation across a 2-hour radio show or podcast or whatever yourself if you don't have anything kind of coming back at you. One of the hardest things that I have experienced with performances is the in between song banter. A lot of people may be surprised at that. You figure, okay, learning songs or like, maybe a song is unusually challenging vocally or whatever, no, it's literally what you talk to the audience about in between the songs.
Right.
I'll record all my performances and I'll listen to them back. And the early ones, I'm like, oh man, like all I did is basically say, well, here's a song from this anime or whatever. And you got to go beyond that. You got to make a connection with the audience and stuff. And it's like, how do you do that? That's right. It's really, really difficult.
It is, but then you have to think about it, that the audience that you are performing to and you as hosts are performers. I don't think people realize that either, that you are the star of the show. The rest of it is all the guests. So you're bringing somebody on who is interesting. And if you don't have interest in the person that you're talking to, you're not going to have anything to talk about. So it's understanding the craft that you're in, understanding the topic that you're speaking about, and engaging in that conversation. It sounds easy, but it isn't always easy because the conversation can kind of die off a little bit. But that's when the skill of the host comes in and can flip that conversation into something that the audience may not anticipate by asking an off-the-wall question. So things like but being interested in who you're talking to, I think, is the biggest key. And Gavin, you're performing to an audience who already knows your music and already knows the concept behind Midnight Syndicate. So you've already got your topic, and so you just expand on that. That's how performers work, and that's how you guys all work with your audience in the chat rooms. So that's great. And
sometimes it's good to have somebody on your team like Angela, who at times will start running in her mouth, and words will come out before she thinks about what she's saying, and we end up having like I still don't feel like we were an official guest at Anime-Zing, but we kind of were like probably the biggest celebrity at Anime-Zing last year or a couple years ago. And then we had probably one of the most amazing interviews ever with Sean Chiplock when Angela just started reading a question in chat.
Brain didn't process everything ahead of time. And halfway through, I realized, brain kicks in and goes, you shouldn't have done that. Oh, well, I'm going to run with it. What's the worst that can happen? Yeah. And I fully expected Sean Chiplock to just politely decline to answer the question and move on. But no, he actually provided a really, really good look into one aspect of that industry, and that episode in audio is on Spotify. It's there for anyone interested. Yeah, I'm kind of notorious for running my mouth. It sometimes gets me in trouble, and sometimes good things come out of it. But yeah. Thanks, Doug.
Isn't that true, Doug, though, about like spontaneity in general? Because when Zena mentioned about like unexpected questions and stuff, where my brain went back to like Brina Palencia.
Yes. That wasn't even a question. She just volunteered information that
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
The eclipse is tomorrow. Who you sacrificing? This is a Berserk reference. Did I just make things dark? You
No, I was trying to think of what fandom I was going to sacrifice.
Oh my
Could be
god,
all
whole fandom. I'm over here like
Um,
a problematic person. You're over here like a group of people.
you know what? I'm going to say,
Don't say me.
absolutely not. You're amazing. If we're
Yeah.
gonna go with fandoms, I will say, not gonna name names, but the the people who do not know how to seal their body paint when they cosplay and make a right mess of everything, and then everybody gets blamed for it.
Ooh.
Okay, so I might sacrifice after just meeting them. Let me just give you an idea, right? Think of a quintessential Metal Gear Solid fan. No, not the guys that dress up like Snake, but the weird 40-plus-year-old men that didn't join the army, that are all crawling over the floor and writhing trying to meet David Hayter, that haven't worn deodorant. Maybe them.
Okay.
You know
Sophia,
what?
you
I'm
look
putting
lost.
Boston as deodorant at this point.
Oh my
Uh,
god, Dragon Senpai, not the furries. They pay my bills. Whoa. Whoa. I literally make fursuits. It's blood money. I get it, but whoa.
Flashcord Photo says they're sacrificing their favorite decorative can of beans, Bush's brown sugar hickory flavored.
No, we love those. You let me
That's
touch
good.
them.
If you don't want the beans, I'll take them.
And Mario has joined the chat. We've got a lot of people in the chat. Oh my god.
So many
Not the
amazing people in
beans.
chat. Thank you,
Yeah.
everyone. And Darren, you still here?
Ooh, maybe
Okay.
Darren really is dead.
That's
That's par for the course.
and Slim Cognito says not the beans, read in a Nick Cage voice, but
Oh
I can't do the voice, so I'm not gonna try.
This is gonna be a plot twist. I'm so sorry. I'm Slim Cognito.
Ah,
Bum bum bum.
bum bum bum. And further back, Adam Smith says this is where we invade. The eclipse is where we invade the Fire Nation.
Oh my god.
All the references here.
Ah.
None your business. Not my fault. It was a quote wardrobe malfunction.
Ross Luck also bringing up yesterday, New York had an earthquake and the Statue of Liberty got struck by lightning. I did see the photograph of the Statue of Liberty getting struck by lightning.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, not for the Statue of Liberty, but
And as far as the earthquake, my brother-in-law felt it. He lives not far from me. I did not feel it where I'm at, but apparently people in this area did feel it because it was in New Jersey.
Didn't they have two? Didn't they have an aftershock later in the day?
I think
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Up in Boston, a fair amount of my friends felt it. I did not.
Oh my gosh. Fun fact. My coworker read about it. He goes, "Oh my gosh, there was an earthquake." And then he goes, "Where's New York?" No. No.
Oh my gosh.
that's funny.
I had somebody ask me one time if they had to exchange their money when they went to California.
Did they actually think they had to do that?
Wow.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
That was a
Yeah,
relative.
no.
Yeah.
Ay, ay, ay.
What
Okay.
elevator short of the fifth floor?
I'm gonna
Yeah.
at myself. I shared a meme because I thought it was cute. It was like this frog, and it was really cute, but I didn't understand what the text meant, and it was basically an abduction meme. But I just shared it because of the cute frog.
Oops. We've all done something like that, though.
Yeah.
I was just like, "Oh my lord,
Okay.
I am so sorry. I thought everyone's mom drove a van, and my bad."
Ross kind of bringing it back to sacrificing, but his
Did we ever stop?
response, sacrificing all the overrated show fandoms because they don't allow the good hidden gem animes to shine. For example, Jujutsu Kaisen, Demon Slayer.
Right on.
AOT.
That's a pretty good point.
You know,
Yeah.
I have never once said some of the shows I like aren't overrated. I've never argued that point.
7 Deadly Sins.
Never seen
My son, who does not exist, loves those shows.
And one of the fun banters that we've had for a while on the show, as I mentioned earlier, Angela and I go back and forth between me being isekai trash and her being a fan of a lot of the shonen shows. I agree with her that most isekai is trash, and she agrees with me that most shonen is overrated. It's not that we're saying specific shows are really bad; we're just saying overrated. Or
sometimes we do get into some shows are actually bad, but those are few and far between. As a whole, we just have very different tastes and pick on each other constantly about it.
And occasionally we find
me,
shows that we all like.
You guys would tell me, right? If I was on camera right now doing my squats naked, right? You would tell me, right?
We would tell you.
I just got a pop-up that was like, you're in the show. Everyone can see and hear you. And I was like, oh, hell no.
Everyone can hear you. No one can see you.
It just came up as a pop-up where it's like, you're in. And I was like, ow! Oh my God, I just ran over so fast. Oh my God.
I have a question for you guys. With the popularity of anime growing so fast over the last several years, do you see some of the shows being rushed out too quickly?
Much like me being born, they were very premature in their creation, yes?
Yeah.
You know?
Good response.
Oh my God, we love you,
I'll
Julia.
take that as a yes.
I'm gonna. It often feels like there's way too much coming out at any given point, and sometimes it feels rushed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I see a lot of like duplication, like things that shows that kind of cover the same ground. Where back when I got into it, they rarely did. I'm not going to say never, but like everything had its own unique spin and stuff. Now I don't find that as much.
Right.
And
what I was going to say is, I've seen shows that there's a light novel that was turned into an anime of What Will You Be Doing at the End of the World? Are You Busy? Will You Save Us? That is the title. It's really long. And it had a great storyline. And like the first 8-9 episodes went at a nice steady pace. And then like the last 2 or 3 episodes felt like they rushed it. It felt like they could have turned this into a 2-season long anime and been really, really good. But it felt like the ending, they just kind of rushed and then left you with questions of what happens next.
Ross, yes, we did give a warning. We did say that there was a possibility it would turn 18 plus.
Yes, I did. I did give a warning, Ross.
Yeah, they did give a heads up. Yeah.
Cool. I was like panicking in the chat. I was like, I hope they warned people so I can continue doing what I love.
Julia, I always give the warning ahead of time because we know, your sense of humor. We know how you.
Oh my gosh, is that AJ in the background?
Yes, it is.
Hi! Oh my gosh! I'm waving and he can't see me. I'm so dumb.
Well, that's okay. You were just doing squats naked, so you don't want to be seen.
No. I put on my robe because I was embarrassed. One of the people in the chat, Adam, texted me and he goes, "Nice squats." I was like, "What the?"
Julia, AJ says hi.
Senpai noticed me, even if they have a restraining order on me.
Oh God. All right.
I think I would say Fairy Tail the anime was sort of rushed. I would say at the end, in my personal view. And I think they missed out some stuff. But I think they rushed that a little bit. But there's some are that, some not. But there's some animes where you think like, why didn't you just end it? You know what I mean? So yeah. I think everyone feels that about One Piece, but I do not watch One Piece. Right, I do not watch it, but it's just like I can just imagine the One Piece being like, by the way, the One Piece was like your friendships and all that, and they're like, oh.
Attack on Titan was another one where they totally could have ended it at a certain point and didn't, and yeah.
It can put people off, like at some times, like, you know what I mean, like, and then there's obviously the anime you wish you that didn't rush it, but like, it's sort of people. Animes had that sort of imbalance of, okay, they rushed it. Why didn't you just stop it while you could, and things like that. So it's sort of a mix. It's sort of a mixed bag sometimes, and there's some ones that are just like perfect. Right, don't do any more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep.
And you look at it, and anime fans in general were either complaining that a show is rushed or there's too much filler. It's very rare to find a show where everybody says it was perfect pacing, perfect storyline, perfect characters. I don't think you're gonna find a specific show that everybody can agree that it was just done right.
Right. It's all perception.
I think we're past the era of filler. Like most, like outside of like some of the ongoing never-ending ones, it seems like anything new is a lot less filler and a lot more. Here's one season. 4 or 5 years later, maybe even more. Here's season 2 that may or may not even be related.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes a bad thing. I mean, Dragon Ball Z, I know people are like, but like I generally enjoyed that because I don't know, because it's such a big universe with the Dragon Ball Z stuff. I kind of enjoyed it. I know everybody had complaints about Naruto Shippuden and things like that, but obviously they're completely different animes. So yeah, my fiance wasn't a fan of obviously the filler, but he read the manga and things like that, so he had to deal with it because he was a fan. But yeah, there's some that are good, some that are bad. I think people find the balance in that sometimes.
I would just hate to see the anime industry kind of fall down a little bit because people are trying to capitalize on the perfection of what was and just putting out, random stuff that's just not good. You know what I mean? You know how that can happen?
Yeah, we call it
in
live
the
action.
industry?
Right.
And I mean, that's true for all media, not necessarily just anime.
Right.
As Ross in the chat says, I mean, there's live action TV shows on network television that have been going on for what feels like forever in a day. Survivor's on season 46.
Yeah.
The Simpsons have been Are the Simpsons still putting new episodes out?
I believe so.
And because I remember, they're going for over 20.
Yeah,
and that's. I think another thing to take into account with anime specifically, especially stuff that's not produced here, is we were all talking about, good, bad, whatever, but I think some of it is also just the cultural differences.
I agree. Yeah.
Some of it is just bad, period. But there's also a lot that has to take into account the cultural differences.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And also, when you look at it, a lot of animes are converted over from manga or light novels. And we're in a day and age where there's been so much stuff put out that when something comes out and that style is really popular, it's going to get copied immensely. And if you look outside of anime, look at Marvel and superheroes. How many movies have come out? How many different remakes have you seen of Spider-Man, Superman,
Yeah.
or anybody
Too
from that.
many.
Or
Yes, thank
spin-offs.
you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Someone said it. Thank
Um,
you.
You know, so it's like anime is the same thing. We all talk about, you know, isekai trash. Every isekai feels like it's the same thing over and over with a tiny tweak, but they found something that works, and so everybody jumped on the bandwagon to put their own little spin on there, whether it be,
Exactly.
you know, something as fantastic as Jobless Reincarnation to something as goofy and stupid as In Another World My Smartphone, or Reincarnated as a Sword, or Vending Machine, or I think there was an apple, or
I've got to watch
pig.
that vending machine one. That I don't know why, but that just intrigues the hell out of me.
I will say this. I went into Vending Machine, like my wife and I went into that expecting it to suck. And it should not have been as good as it is. And I literally this week went back and rewatched it to see if that still stood true. And it got me excited knowing there's a season 2.
Oh my God, are you ready? If you like that vending machine show, you should look up Nora the Fridge from Atomic Heart.
Oh my god, I'm so totally gonna do that after this.
I'm waiting for them to have Reincarnated as a Isuzu truck. You know, I got Reincarnated as Truck Coon.
So I've got a question for you guys. So there's some animes that are coming out. So we've heard of the new Pantheon stocking. Obviously, the dub and the sub haven't really you know, explored too much out of it, other than announcing that there's going to be a second season. And obviously, there's another season of Black Butler that I'm really excited about.
Yep.
And what do you think? Like, so I know that people are saying, well, obviously there's going to be new characters, obviously for the new Black Butler and things like that. But do you think, for what I'm thinking with Pantheon stocking, the only two people that I can see that I would love to come back is Jamie Markey and Monica Rio as Pantheon stocking.
And you have to have Sabbath back as garter belt.
I think like, so what do you think? Do you think anything's going to be different? Do you think it's going to be, because I think that Pantheon stocking is going to be the same, and obviously I know Black Butler is going to be something different, but like, do you like think that the same? Do you guys like have that sort of thing? Like, if the same voice actor is going to come back, then I'll give it more of a watch. But do you like? I know that, you know, there's new and up and coming people, but I feel like, you know, with Pantheon stocking, like, how could it not be Jamie Markey and Monica Rio, or like, you know, with Brina Peninsula, who plays CL from CL, and Michael J. Tatum plays Sebastian. And I don't know, like, I would love for them to come back. So how do you feel about, you know, these animes coming back, and how do you feel if someone actually, if Monica or Jamie didn't play Pantheon, it was someone else? How does that make you feel?
So an example I could give wouldn't be like anime related, it would be gaming. So David Hayter voices Snake from Metal Gear Solid, and he's been doing that role for so long, right? They replaced him with a Hollywood actor, Kiefer Sutherland. More like Queefer Sutherland. Anyway, yeah, I just wasn't really a fan of that. I just don't understand, why would you take away that role from that voice actor? Right? Like, it didn't need Queefer in there.
I'm taking you're not a fan.
No, I love Hunter Sutherland. Oh my God. No, I love him. I actually like watching 24. It's just,
all right.
Right? Like, even with the Mario movie, Chris Pratt, who can't even give an inflection. It was such a dry delivery. And then Charlie Day didn't even try. He was like, I'm getting a paycheck, you know?
And looking at the anime side, and this is something my wife and I actually talked about this week, is Spice and Wolf has come back. And we watched the first episode in Japanese. And then we went back and rewatched the first episode of the original. And there are subtle changes that have been made between the two. And, you know, we were talking, it's like, will this feel the same if they dub it without having Brina Palencia and J. Michael Tatum as Holo and Kraft Lawrence? I think it would just feel very off if they weren't able to bring it back. But at the same point in time, that's because we're coming in having seen the original. somebody, there's a new generation that's coming up. There's, we go to conventions. I was talking to a cosplayer at Anime Boston last weekend that says she's been going to Anime Boston for 10 years. She just turned 20. I'm like, good God. But she may not have grown up around the original Spice and Wolf. So this might be her first introduction to that series. So you kind of got to look at this stuff subjectively of, okay, some of the voice actors may have retired. And in the case of Yashahime, the voice for Miroku passed away during it, so they had to change that one. There's certain circumstances. We've seen people who've gotten in legal trouble and had to be replaced. Even Spy Family English dub, Megan Shipman had a baby, and so they brought Bryn April in to continue the voice of Anya, which, when you listen to it, there really wasn't a difference at all. I think that Bryn did an amazing job taking over as Anya's voice actress from Megan, and Megan did an amazing job for Anya as well.
The notable one for me would be Ruby, when due to extenuating circumstances I'm not gonna bring up, they replaced the voice actor for Crow, and it was, I don't know, it definitely wasn't it was a noticeable difference, but at the same time, because of what happened with the story, because it happened between seasons, it wasn't as noticeable as if it had been done in the middle of a season. And the season, and like in between those seasons, there was a little bit of a time jump and a little bit of character development, which we got in an exposition episode. So it ended up being, honestly, not a big deal. But I could see where for people who are accustomed to certain voices, if you change the voice, for some it's gonna ruin it, and I know that. But you got to take into account life and how many years has it been? Who's to say they didn't try to get the original voice actors, but
yeah, it's true.
But just couldn't because of scheduling conflicts or life.
It could be licensing issues and things like that as well. Especially if I think the Pantheon stocking one. I think the reason why that's sort of up in the air, this is my speculation. I think there's been some licensing issues at the moment. I think that's what's going on. But you never know. Like, if it goes on to a different studio, then you're going to have different voice actors, and people can have to deal with that. So you know what I mean.
And there are some people, there are some voice actors that primarily work, in the anime industry. There are some that may primarily do dubs for Crunchyroll. Then there are others who are more well known for working with Sentai Filmworks. And of course, there's the recording studios throughout the U.S. Bang Zoom in L.A., where people can go and record for whoever they just use as a recording studio.
But and then we've got a bunch of questions in the chat. Has everybody here seen Suzume movie and Boy and the Heron movie?
I have not seen either.
Nope, neither one.
Negative. But I want to see The Boy and the Heron because it has Willem Dafoe.
It was so good. That
adding it to the list.
The casting for that was superb. I've not watched Suzume, but Boy and the Heron I did get to see in theaters.
And also, Spy Family is coming to theaters, I think, April 19th.
It's going to be around for a whole week.
We should do a special check for tickets. Like, any man that says Anya's his waifu immediately gets banned.
You're, on the other hand, fair game.
Yes, I agree.
We've talked extensively on waifus and stuff on the show here. Darren and I usually argue over various shows of who's best waifu. I think all of us, even Angela, agreed that Anya is a must protect. She is not a waifu. She is a must protect
Anya's
at
a
all
cute little
costs.
girl.
She's adorable.
She is
Hold
an
up, King and Queen. Is your waifu over the age of 16?
precisely. But
I mean, depending on the show, some of them could be over 800.
Yeah.
And that's for
on
the
the
best.
note of Spy Family being in theaters, we already have tickets.
I can't do that because of my work schedule and me never knowing when I'm going to get a call.
Um,
I'm on the
So-
extra list, so I could receive. When I checked before the show, I was second on the list with nothing really scheduled to go out until tomorrow morning. But this morning I got a call at like 4:00 in the morning about, oh, well, can you drive to Jersey for a train? And they're like, wait, how long of a ride is that? And then they get back to me and go, oh, never mind.
But in 2 weeks before the show, I will be seeing Spy Family. So stay tuned for that.
Lucky.
Speaking of waifus, what's you guys' favorite waifu from one of your favorite anime? I would class Merliona Vermilion from Black Clover. Like she's waifu material. Like I'm like she's probably my first anime female crush. I'm like sort of why, but that's my one. But and she is definitely over the age of 16. Yeah, so I've got nothing to worry about regarding that. So I'm good.
I think for me, I'd have to say one of my favorite. My favorite is probably Yor from Spy Family.
I can see that.
My first ever waifu would have been Sango from Inuyasha.
You fucked up. You messed up by not saying Casey. Oh shit. Oh.
After that, it went to Mizore from Rosario Vampire. Recently, Holo is up there because that character design was always really good.
And then his actual wife.
I mean, Yor, of course. I'm trying to think who else.
You know what?
He'll put his wife on here, I promise.
See, Julia, on that note, I could say my waifu who just went to bed. Because he does joke that he is the housewife.
And when my wife did have the tables in Artist Alley, I always said I was the booth bitch. So
how are y'all just able to pick like a waifu right off the bat? I'm over here like sweating, looking. Actually, that's bad that I'm sweating looking at a pile of like naked anime figures. My head is turned. I'm like blotting my face. I'm like, oh my God, which one of you plastic babies? And they can't say anything. They don't know I have favorites. What the?
It doesn't help that I have exactly 2 figures, one of which you can see in my screen.
Which is Anya.
And the other is Asuka from Eva.
Some would say Rias some would say Rias and Akano from High School DxD as well.
If only Darren was awake to hear that.
Yeah, right.
He wakes up from his sound slumber. I agree with you.
No, Darren's waifu from DxD is Zenobia. But we are almost out of time. Oh my God, this 2 hours has gone by so fast.
Oh.
Once again, we want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank you, Zita, Gavin, Sophia, Julia, for joining us tonight.
You're welcome. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you to all the amazing people in the chat for joining us. A lot of familiar faces, a lot of new faces. Ross had made a comment about saying he was in one of my streams for 3 hours. Ross, we did a convention where I live streamed for 12 hours and 2 days, and Ross was in the chat for 11 of those 12 hours.
Wow.
That's cool.
That's some
So
dedication.
that is dedication. So at some point in time, I think it would be fun to be able to put a special little like thank you gift to Ross for the
Ross.
support
All
that
right.
he's shown.
You know
Ross-
what,
Oh, sorry.
Ross? An important question to Ross: do you have allergy? Do you have specific food allergies?
Ross,
Pressure's on you now,
comment
Ross.
some favorite characters. I'll draw them for you for free.
Because
free.
at some point, because fun fact, I'm actually going to be going back to Japan later this year.
Oh, wow.
And there's a couple of specific people from the chat who have been just amazingly awesome. And I was going to get little some goodies to send out as a hey, thank you for being awesome fans.
Yeah, you know, we really do appreciate
That's so
it. And,
nice.
you know, and thank you to everybody who has supported us for the last 10 years. It still blows my mind that I've stuck with something this long. I've done this show. This show's lasted longer than my first marriage.
You know what?
Wow.
Doug, I can say my time on this show has lasted longer than my first marriage as well.
And as long as I keep doing this show, I can say I've been doing this show longer than either of my marriages.
I've
I
been
was
doing this show
before
longer
I met
than
my
I've been
wife.
married. I've never been married.
Nope. I can honestly say, husband. When we
I'm
first
going
talked,
into the living room and demanding a wedding right now, so I can say I've been on this show longer than my marriage. Hold on.
no, when we first talked about me doing this, he was nothing but super supportive, and it's. I wasn't sure I was that I was still gonna be here now, but it's been one hell of a journey, Doug.
Yeah. And before we let all of our guests
Hey,
go,
babe, can you come in here and we can have a wedding so I can say I've been with the show longer than you? We've been married, babe? Babe!
I don't know if that's a yes or a no.
and before we let
He
you
just
guys,
went,
Zena, do you have any projects you've been working on that you'd like to promote where people can check out your stuff?
This is the first time in my life I'm not working on 15 things at once. So no, I'm not in radio anymore. I shut the studio down. But I do write. I'm working on a novel. Actually, I'm working on 2 novels. And I have a writer's page on Facebook, and I do kind of inspirational writing, different perspective on things. You can find me over there. Just look up my name, and it's actually Zeta Ost. I'll go put it in there. He knows me. And I do some graphic design work. So that's really all I'm doing now. And I kind of enjoying it.
And Gavin, I know that Home Circle Media has been going good for you. We've been talking about certain merchandise that I'm looking for to see if you have any in. But let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, it's www.homecirclemedia.com, and I am very happy to say that we've got a slew of new inventory that's going to be posted very soon, this week, in fact. I got a big shipment in from Japan of more than I ever expected would be out there in paper theater. And thankfully, they started doing 2,000-piece puzzles again. Yay! Because those have been in high demand for a while, and they always sold out, and they weren't available for a while. So lots of good stuff back in stock and new things. So definitely look for that.
And I know that you had mentioned something about Bochi the Rock official art book.
Yeah, that's on order. I haven't gotten it yet. There's a bunch of stuff from some newer shows and stuff that I just, sometimes it's hard to keep track of the orders and stuff, but I'll keep checking back to make sure when they get them at the distributor over in Japan, we'll get them on the way and everything.
Awesome. And Sophia, where can people find you? Any pages that you'd like to promote?
Well, I'm going to represent the Realists here, so I'm going to represent Monica. So you can find her Facebook page on the Realists. She's also on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram at Realisms. Just think of Real, and then what was it? I can't spell today. What was it?
Real with ISM for realism and Realists for ISTS.
Realisms. Yeah, so I'll promote her instead of my page because my TikTok page is just filled with Bill stuff, and nobody wants to see me rant about that. So, but yeah, no, that's where you can find Monica and the fans and things like that. She's very interactive with people and things like that. So there's no need to worry and things like that. But yeah, no, just find her then. Obviously with our Facebook page, we try and interact with people, and obviously. We respond to people as well there for you. So, and you can post on there whatever you like, just as long as it's PG-13.
And yeah. Julia, do you have anything that you'd like to promote? Any people that you've helped at cons that you want to throw shout outs to?
Sure. Well, as you know, I vent for Cosplay Mumu. Everyone say hi, Jeff. Secondly, I'm a panelist. I'll be paneling at Kineticon this summer. I have 3 panels, one on video game mascots, one on Atomic Heart, the other on sewing safety. I have a Facebook page, The Crafting Cheese or Crafting Cheese. I have Instagram that I don't use. I have a Ko-Fi that's also under Crafting Cheese. And that's pretty much it. Oh, can we all say hi to my dad, I guess? I don't know. Hi, Dad, who is not listening to this, I hope. He's such a sensitive, beautiful man. He's watching Castlevania. He thinks Alucard is a woman, and all he really wants to know is if she gets a sweater. Like, he does have some like big boobs. It's concerning. Like the line, he's got huge mommy milkers. Whoa, I can both of those.
Again, a big thank you to everybody for tuning in, and it's been 10 wonderful years of doing this show, and we'll look forward to hopefully many more years, as long as we can keep finding amazing people to come on the show, have the support that we've had. It's been amazing. Hoping that my new job, I'm able to continue to get out and provide content. Do keep an eye on our YouTube channel, as this week we uploaded a Baby Beard press conference from Anime Boston. We do have more press conferences and content from Anime Boston that is going to be edited and will be uploaded in the weeks to come, barring reviews from certain clients. Also, next Sunday, join us as we have a roundtable Anime Boston review show. We'll be talking about our experiences, everything that happened at Anime Boston, the fun that we had. Have some stories, good and bad. You never know what's going to come up next week. Be sure to tune in. It's going to be a lot of fun. Until then, thank you to everybody for tuning in. Thank you to everybody for your support of Anime-Zing Radio for the last 10 years. Really, it means the world to me. I never thought when I started this show back on April 6, 2014, that 10 years later, A, I'd be living in my 3rd different state. B, we would have had not just amazing voice actors on the show, had international guests, press at conventions, guest at conventions, be a panelist at conventions, which was very much out of my comfort zone as well, and even fly a voice actor to a con. A lot of dreams have come true from stepping out, as Zeta said, just getting me out of my comfort zone, and it's been an amazing ride. And I hope all of you have enjoyed the show tonight, and will continue to support and enjoy our shows as we move forward.
All right, yeah, thank you for having us on, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
And until next. Oh, go ahead, Ange.
No, I was just going to say thank you all for being so amazing, and we'll see you next time.
Until next
Congratulations, everybody.
Thank
See
you.
guys.
Until next week, when we have more Anime-Zing Radio. Have a safe week out there. Be safe for the eclipse tomorrow if you're seeing it. And we'll see you again here next Sunday on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch for more anime